Here we go. Still recording. Alright, sorry. So, you want to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name's Rob. I live in Sydney, from the UK originally. Yeah.
And tell me about your acting stuff.
Yeah, look, I mean, I've always loved acting since I was little. One of my earliest memories is being on stage as a kid in like the Christmas, like the nativity play. I was one of the kings. But yeah, I've always loved it, and I just realised that I'd rather have a job that I love and maybe doesn't necessarily always pay as well than something that's kind of soul crushing and draining. Yeah.
It's pretty good. So, you were telling me before how you're doing like stage acting and all that. Do you want to? And at the moment, we just did a little short film.
Yeah.
So maybe do you want to talk about your what both respectively stage and screen acting?
Yeah, sure. I mean, they're kind of really different in a way. Like, people talk about being an actor, but I kind of think that the skills required for screen acting are so different to stage acting. Like, stage, you kind of get the natural flow from scene to scene and develop character and have the same people. But, screen acting is, you film things out of order and you have to go over the same thing over and over again. And in theatre, you get the chance to play it fresh each time, but in screen, there's kind of there's a continuity importance. If you've got a line and they shoot it from your left and then they repeat the shot from behind you, you've got to do the exact same movement. Otherwise, people go, "Didn't his bag be on the other shoulder before?" And on professional sets, obviously that's someone's job. But I think as an actor, it's important for you to kind of know, or at least make the rest of the team's job easier. The more that you can keep that in control, the easier you come across to work with. They're very obviously you're still just playing someone else, it's just pretending to be someone else. But the actual nuts and bolts of stage acting versus screen acting are so different, the way you go about them, the way you prepare for them.
Okay, now, do you do things differently? Are you a fan of, but you've never actually done any sort of acting in relation to that? What do you think?
I guess, I don't really know, to be honest. I mean, I like contemporary dance and stuff and that sort of thing, but it's never something that I kind of went down. It just was a bit too artsy for me, I guess. I always kind of had a natural affinity for the acting side of things, the make-believe. I have trained in dance and singing, but they've never come as easily as kind of the acting is, just putting on a character or, creating a new persona is so much more fun than, spending hours at the bar perfecting your, pliés and tendus, or, hours in vocal class, working on your belt and stuff. So while those are like strings to an actor's bow, I think it's the characterization that's really what's good for me, and it's kind of where I always put my energy on. If I'm even if I'm in a musical, it's like put the energy where I like it to be, because at the end of the day, acting should be fun, and if it's not, you're probably doing it wrong. There's so many people who get so caught up in the textbook stuff of it, and don't get me wrong, I'm an acting nerd too. I'll do my prep work, but sometimes you just got to have a bit of a play and let that ego go and just go, hey, I'm here to have some fun.
So it's kind of like you're a fan of dancing too. I get that. I always found it a bit too artsy and all that. For me to partake in it, you can say. Now, you're saying something about musicals before? Yeah, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I guess musicals were kind of why I ended up in acting as it was. I was actually at medical school when I finished high school. I did all the musicals in high school and really enjoyed those, but then I was like, okay, I was 17 at the time. 17, time to grow up, which was a big joke if you knew how much of a big kid I was now. But essentially it was a case of okay, I'm going to get the adult job. Should I go into an arts career or should I become a doctor? Well, doctors are respected, get paid well, and it will make my parents happy. And my school basically said, yeah, you're smart enough to be a doctor. So I did it. I was like, okay, cool. If I can do it, I might as well. Not actually ever really engaging with what I wanted to do. But then I started doing community theatre when I was halfway through my medical degree because I needed some creative outlet. And doing that made me remember like what it was like to enjoy something and not just do it because you felt like you were supposed to. And then kind of things progressed and I ended up dropping out of medical school to do my performing arts degree. And I mean, that was hard in and of itself. I was going through a lot of struggles, you know, the whole having to drop out of medical school, tell your parents kind of thing. Everyone saying, oh, but you were good. Why wouldn't you go back to it? And them just not understanding that I was putting my happiness first. I think so many people use success as a marker of happiness or like professional success, and I just don't think it makes any sense. But that's late stage capitalism for you. But yeah, I've always loved musicals, and I hopefully get to perform in some more.
Nice. Now, what kind of music do you like to as a fan to sit and enjoy?
So musicals. I mean, I'm always big fans of like the glitzy sort of high energy ones. Like I went and saw some friends perform in a community theatre production of Legally Blonde the other day. That's been a show that I've always had a really strong relationship with. I've danced West Side Story a couple of times, which definitely isn't glitzy, but it's got a lot of choreography. I went and saw Les Mis not long ago, which I absolutely despised. It was just, I mean, look, it's in the title. It was miserable, it was depressing, and there was nowhere near enough sequence. So, but look, I like shows with dancing. One of my favourite shows is An American in Paris, which I was lucky enough to see on the West End with Robbie Fairchild, who originated the role that Gene Kelly plays in the film. And so anything sort of with lots of movement, lots of colour. I mean, I'm essentially a toddler in the sense that, you shake a bunch of keys at me and I'm going to be entertained. So, yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, and the American in Paris, I've seen that the film. I like stage and stuff. I've seen a few small handful of actual shows and all that, but I don't know why I've got this lingering thing for film or video. So I can watch the video versions of them, like when somebody tapes the stage. I can sit there watching for hours for some reason. I think it's just more on my part, just enjoying the more of it rather than kind of the experience of it, if that makes sense. So, what about just the movie side of things or TV side? What do you like to watch and stuff?
I mean, my default is always either cartoons that are aimed at adult, like I just watched Big Mouth. I'm watching stuff like Family Guy, Rick and Morty, even Robot Chicken and stuff, like grown-up cartoons. Archer is another good one. They're my kind of like comfort show. Like I wake up in the morning and I'm feeling tired and I don't know what I want to watch, I put cartoons on. It's kind of, again, I'm just a big grown-up toddler. But in terms of like my cinema stuff, I mean, anything with kind of a good twist ending. I really enjoyed Now You See Me the other night because I did not expect that was going to go the way it did. And again, same thing with things like The Prestige, The Machinist, I mean, Memento, I like things with sort of a psychological component. I mean, Donnie Darko completely screwed with my head. It's actually, I think the 28th of October is coming up, or has just been, and that's the day that the world ends in Donnie Darko. And I had a reminder in my calendar. I was like, what's that event that I've put in the calendar, the Donnie Darko end of the world day? But yeah, look, I kind of generally gravitate towards comedy, though. I just think the world's dark enough. We don't need any more darkness with what we're watching than TV. So Monty Python is a really big one for me, and all the sort of UK sitcoms from the 90s that I sort of was raised on. My parents would watch them, I would watch them too, and that's kind of my go-to, as well as stuff like Doctor Who and even Charmed, Buffy, those sort of 90s stuff.
You said a bit earlier on that you're more British primed. Besides your acting, besides your accent, you want to expand on that sort of thing? Rather than, you said something that you're rather British than American or something?
Yeah, I think it's just a nature of, like, relatability. I don't find American sitcoms as funny as I do British sitcoms. Maybe it's because of conditioning, I watched them with my parents who found them funny, so I then found them funny, or maybe it's that I can relate to the circumstances a bit more. I mean, everyone talks about The Office, and like the Steve Carell Office, the Jim, Pam stuff, and I've tried to watch it, and I just never really got into it. Whereas I watched the Ricky Gervais one, and tonally that's much more my level, Whereas saying that, I mean, Parks and Rec, I think was from the same creators, but I loved that, and that was very American, it was Amy Poehler at her finest. Like, I liked Friends, I enjoyed Seinfeld back in the day. It's dated now, both of them, and they've got their share of problematic references, as we know the world right now. But like, I do like some of both. I just think. I kind of think that, like, the way Americans do it with the, 22 episodes and 10 seasons, it's just a lot of stuff. And it does kind of jump the shark, to, use that phrase, to the point. Whereas, like, Fawlty Towers, arguably one of the greatest sitcoms ever, I think there's only 12 episodes. And just every episode, I watch one, and I forget that this, maybe there's, 2 or 3 different characters, and I forget that they're the same episode, Basil the rat and the health inspector and then the dead body and all this stuff and I'm like, oh, are they the same episode? How do they all pair together? Or the guy with the chest hair and then the guy with the spoon salesman and the police, and there's all of these storylines that I forget are the same episode because they just packed so many ideas into a single episode, and I just think that's a little bit better than some of the American long-running ones, only for the sheer reason that they run out of ideas and stuff doesn't feel fresh anymore.
You just mentioned Ricky Gervais, which I do. I understand it, maybe because it's just being Australian and all that. But talking about Ricky Gervais, do you think he's done a lot for British entertainment sector? He's one of the more outside the UK. You'll find a lot of people who would know about him.
I mean, look, I haven't really had much conversation Ricky Gervais with other people. Look, he's obviously his Oscars performance his Oscars hosting had an impact, whether that was for better or worse or not. But you know what they say, any publicity is good publicity. He's obviously done well for himself. I don't necessarily know if any one comedian lifts the game. I mean, the Python Boys probably were the ones who put British comedy on the American map. Live at the Hollywood Bowl, you see that, and the number of people that turned out to that. And it's probably a similar thing, but I think he's great. I think Gervais is great, and obviously now with Afterlife, which is on Netflix, and Kerry Godliman's in that, as well as Diane Morgan, who's obviously famously Philomena Kunk. So there are all these it's kind of like by Ricky Gervais becoming a bit more famous, he was then able to get opportunities. He was then able to cast really strong. He was able to produce stuff, cast really strong actors, comedic actors in with them, who that then raises their profile. It's kind of like you bring your friends along to the party. Because I don't know what the Netflix decision making around it was, but Kunk on Earth is probably one of the funniest things I've watched in a very long time, and Diane Morgan is brilliant in that. And I hadn't heard of her before I saw Afterlife, and she's one of the cast of that. So whether it's a case of they thought she was really funny in that, and then they gave her her own series, whatever. But I genuinely think had Ricky Gervais not had the profile he did, then maybe that wouldn't have gotten the footing it did.
There's a personal reason why I mentioned him. I'm a big Carl Bridgerton fan. Have you checked any of him out?
No, actually, I haven't. I'm not familiar with was it Carl Bridgerton? Yeah, no.
I think it's Pintington.
Okay.
His last name's obviously a bit of a struggle, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what's he been?
Okay. So his story was, Ricky Gervais started off in radio. So Carl Pintington was a radio producer. And he just did the local things. I think he started in Manchester and then made his way up to London. And somehow he just ended up producing Ricky Gervais's radio show. And, when behind this, even though people might not see it, but whoever's the producer and stuff or whatever, the producer and whoever's on the start, they have to interact a lot. So because Carl Pilkington's an oddball character, they just made him laugh and all that. So Ricky Gervais brought him on.
Right. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, as I say, like, I guess it just depends on where your knowledge comes from. Like, I mean, my I think the first thing I ever saw Ricky Gervais in was Extras, which was after The Office, because The Office I was like, oh, a show about working in an office. I don't want to work in an office. Why would I watch that show? And then when Extras came out, I was like, oh, okay, this is about actors, or at least background artists, as they're supposed to be called now. But yeah, Extra, you know. And watching that, I was like, oh, this guy's funny, and then started checking out his other work. I imagine, obviously, I mean, Ricky Gervais was in a band in the 80s as well, so, like, he's got sort of a history to him that, again, is more than I know. I mean, and that's the same with a lot of artists. I don't tend to, like, I'm the sort of person who'll know random stuff about random things, but I'm not a big, like, lover of celebrity.
Yeah, because that Carl Pilkington guy, he ended up having, like, a cult following.
Right.
And he's got, like, a lot of overseas fans and stuff, just because he's so different and all that. So, what's his name? Steve Merchant described Carl like a typical Englishman. He doesn't like leaving his couch,
right?
Like his house and stuff.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's fair enough. I mean, I suppose it's interesting. It's always interesting to see when like the people who do have those sort of cult followings. Like I only.
The thing is, he's unlike you. He does not want to be like out there. He said in reference because he ended up becoming so successful in the celebrity whatever. He said the only thing he did professionally consciously was to get to work in the radio, have a career in radio as a producer or something. Yeah. He said that's the only career moves that he's done, like to get there, and because everything else was accident. He didn't want to work with Ricky Gervais or anything. Yeah. He said the last time, and because Ricky Gervais just thought it was so funny, he just forced him in. They put cameras and stuff on him. And,
I mean, and I think that's the thing is, it's an interesting thing, like saying.
Hence the cult following, because he just did not want that for him. So,
yeah, I think it is an interesting thing to comment on, is in as much as like, often people go into acting for the fame or the fortune or whatever. I'm actually like, I would be happy if no one knew my name, but I got to do it and was comfortable. You know, I don't need the Hemsworth, compound up in Byron. I don't need to be, living in Beverly Hills. I'd be happy with a comfortable, little apartment and stuff. But being able to do something that you love every day and be able to pay your bills and make ends meet with that, that's really all I want. And I know that I really enjoy acting, and I haven't found anything that I enjoy as much. And that's really why I want to go into acting and why I'm pursuing it, because I feel like it could make me happy.
Anyway, Rob, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thanks for doing it. So, anyway, hang on.
No worries, thanks for having me.
Oh, good. Just give me a sec.